Good afternoon, Wrestling Inc. Get up, get going. Welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily. It's me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com. I am joined here by our new permanent Tuesday co-host, Second City Chicago's EJ Cameron. EJ, you left on good terms, but you've been replaced. You've been replaced, EJ, by Issa. Issa, welcome to Tuesdays. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for asking me. I call it the Tuesday takeover. I'm already here Tuesday night. I might as well come in early. You know, this is the Diva Tuesday takeover of Wrestling Inc. Starts today.
I love it. Let's make shirts. We don't sell shirts, Issa. That sounds like a shirt.
We'll sell it on my website.
Okay, fine. It'll probably sell better on your website than our pro wrestling tees store, to be honest.
Oh no.
Well, we're gonna have a great show here today. We got a lot of news. It's a very mixed bag. Obviously, we will touch on the passing of Scott Hall here very shortly. No interview block today. We'll be back tomorrow with an interview. I got a big, I'll say, mystery AEW interview that we're gonna drop tomorrow. At the end of the show, we'll go into the mailbag. Yeah, I know, right? Very mysterious there. I try my best. And then at the end, we'll dive in the mailbag. We're going to look at Elias. That seems like a fun thing to talk about, to end the show. You're all here. You can jump in the comment section wherever you're at. John here. Hi, Nick and Issa from West Texas. We have Sherrod here. He's checking in from Norfolk State University. So appreciate you all chiming in, checking out the show. Leave a comment. Maybe you'll become part of the show, right? Right?
Yes.
Cool. Well, let's get to it here then. News you can use. News that will leave a bruise. Certainly very, very bruising news. Shortly before Raw last night, word had gotten out that Scott Hall had passed away at the age of 63. Raw started out with a nice in memoriam graphic to Scott. There were multiple references made to him throughout the show, including Kevin Owens starting the show with that nice "Hey Yo" to get things going. Obviously, most people knew Scott from the NWO, the Click, Razor Ramon, the ladder match with Shawn Michaels. I could sit here and blather about all those moments, and we will here for a moment, but in just a moment. But we have a great writer over Wrestling Inc. His name's Eric Mutter. Eric put together a wonderful ode. I don't want to call it I'll call it an in memoriam piece that we released and we had ready thanks to Eric for when the news came out about Scott. It's a wonderful piece. I really think you should go check it out, especially if you're a Scott Hall fan. But Issa, what's your reaction to the news of Scott's passing? What comes to mind when you hear this?
Absolute sadness. I don't know. It just makes you think about how these things happen. And I feel like Scott Hall is one of our generation, right? We grew up watching him. Another thing that I always think about is he'll forever be an honorable Latino in my family. I remember when we found out that the man is not actually Hispanic, my mom, my dad, and I were so shook because he did such an amazing job with this Razor Ramon character that you were convinced. We were 100% convinced that he was one of us. So we just adopted him. He's an honorable Latino member forever. I mean, that character, especially in my geographic, it just hit because it was he made just being a Cuban guy from Miami just look so freaking cool. Probably one of my very first favorite wrestlers when I really started watching during, the Attitude Era. Just oozed machismo. I know they say that a lot, but He was just so organically cool. Anything that he did was cool. The toothpick, when they threw the drink at his head and he made that look like the coolest freaking thing in the world. That is it that we talk about, that this superstar need to have. He had it for days.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I said it yesterday. I'll say it again. If you've never flicked a toothpick and pretended to be Scott Hall, your pro wrestling your pro wrestling card is revoked. You are not a pro wrestling fan if you have never done that. And
that one is right up there with spitting the water like Triple H. Like, if you haven't done those two things, you're not a pro wrestling fan.
Exactly. Yes. So, and that's the thing is Scott was super cool. And, we've heard Bischoff and others that were around at that period really talk about, the impact that Scott and Kevin and then Sean Waltman kind of moving, like the realism those guys brought to the industry at a time where we had never seen anything like that was just so forward thinking. And that's one of the things about Scott Hall. We all know him as this wonderful performer. I think I talked to Scott once for an interview for the site, but obviously I'm very good friends with Sean Waltman. We did the podcast together, and I know a lot of Scott's friends, and I know that he was somebody a lot of people look to as a mind for the business, kind of like a Jake Roberts, right?
Right.
Where people just talk about like how much they just kind of get the business. So like you think about there's this Kanye documentary out there right now that I need to get into. Where like
I started it.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna watch it. But like I know that in it they get into all of these hits that Kanye was attached to that you didn't know about, right?
Yep.
And how he really never got that credit. Like there are so many matches and wrestlers that were mentored by Scott that you will never know where his fingerprints really were. I mean, the guy was just, like a Jake Roberts, a Dusty Rhodes, like all like those kinds of minds is what Scott was. And very sad that he's passed. I was heartened, like many, that the last 10 years he did try to take some steps in the right direction. I know for his legacy too, that's going to really mean a lot in the long run as well. So
yeah, it just I just thought that yesterday was such a roller coaster of emotion kind of day, because it was tweeted out that he was taken off life support, but he was still fighting it, which is what you would expect him to do. But I think we found out as Monday Night Raw opened, which I don't know about you, but for me, it did take a big hit on my viewing experience of Raw. And, as soon as Kevin Owens says, hey, yo, it really hits you, I'm on social media, because as far as I knew at that moment, he was still fighting. And maybe I was just believing in the power of a miracle, because I did hear that's what it would take, in order for him to make it through this. It was just heart-wrenching. It was rest in peace. My thoughts and prayers are with his family and friends.
And it was obvious that it affected people on screen too. Like Kevin was very Corey Graves was basically in tears talking about Scott Hall before they went to the I don't know if they did a package or whatever, but I just remember him being at the booth, and that guy's eyes were red. Like you could tell he was crying and still trying to get through his job last night. It was really rough. I agree.
Yeah, one of the first people I thought about was Damian Priest. In his episode of Chronicles, he mentioned how he went and asked Scott Hall for permission to do the walk, to do the Razor's Edge, and getting that blessing was such a big deal to him. And he did pay homage last night. But he has been someone that's been paying homage to Razor Ramon, since day one. You think of these people that always talk about what an influence he was. It had to be, a lot of them are so inspired by that generation of wrestlers that it's hard to believe that, they could be gone any day.
Yeah, and it really is special with Priest and a couple other guys, because I know that like there was like a weekend or a couple weekends where like they had Scott and Waltman and Hunter and Sean. They were like all down at the Performance Center. It was only like a couple of weekends, I think. And there was like a certain class of guys that got to like do house shows and stuff with like all of the clique basically on hand.
Yeah.
And I know that Priest was one of those guys, and like very, very, very strong connection there. Just a huge loss, right?
It is.
I don't even know what else to say. Any other final thoughts you wanna put on Scott Hall and on his passing here before we kind of pit her off into some other hopefully fun pro wrestling stuff?
I mean, his Hall of Fame speech is one of my favorite wrestling phrases of all time. Bad guys last. I love that speech. And I think there's something like to see about scrolling through the timeline right now. There's so many positive, there's so many good stories coming out about Scott Hall that it's a good way to pay homage. And I think his memory will live on for a very, very long time. The things that he did were, such a movement for professional wrestling that I'll know he'll continue to live on. He'll live forever.
Yeah, and MCAS Pierre thrown out. Yeah, this is a tidbit that's been going around Scott Hall while we're talking about the fingerprints he left on the business. He gave Sting the idea to do the Crow character, which totally reinvented Sting. And to be fair, Sting's kind of just followed that playbook the rest of his career. He's like,
yes,
you need a different kind of Sting? Got it. No.
Yes, that's what I'm enjoying about all of this. The stories coming out of this it's just amazing to read and see how much he did outside of what we know.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I'm sure we'll be continuing to talk about Scott throughout the week. If you all, like a Leo Pereira here just says, hey, yo, right? And
hey, yo.
Headlock heel, haven't been hit this hard since Eddie Guerrero. It's tougher too when because he's only 63, right? And there's like this whole attitude era of guys that were cool in their 20s and 30s and
Right.
like grew up side by side with these guys. And anyway, tough pill to swallow.
It
All
is.
right. When's our palate? Mike D here. Missing baby Yorkshire Terrier Roman.
He
Which
was just here. He was just here.
Yeah, all right. Let's talk about Raw here a little bit. Like we say, the specter of Scott Hall loom large, but also we got some Cody Rhodes tease here. The tease continues. Soon after Seth Rollins lost to Kevin Owens in the main event, Corey Graves dropped several Cody Rhodes hints. He mentioned how Rollins' WrestleMania hopes had been dashed, and his dream had become a nightmare. Right? Pretty heavy-handed.
Yes.
It feels like they're kind of doing the CM Punk worst kept secret kind of deal at this point, right? Yeah.
Right, but in my opinion, it feels like they just started doing that last night, right? Prior to last night, I felt it was us putting together the bits and pieces that are coming out from the news and assuming he's showing up at WWE. When those words were said to end Raw, is the first time that I actually thought, wait, maybe he really is coming. You know, of course, we're doing the tweeting and you were waiting for it. I knew he wasn't showing up just because of how long the match went on. Like, I think, like, he got pinned at like 10:58. I'm like, yeah, this is not happening. There's no way you end with Cody Rhodes on the screen for 10 seconds, right? But those words from Cody Graves is what really started messing with me. Because before that, I was like, nah, it's just us. It's the fans. It's the news website. We're all creating this narrative. No pun intended there. But now WWE is playing with our feelings at this point.
Sure. Yeah. I feel like they're playing with their feelings, but it seems to be working, right? You know, as much as everybody hates it and everybody's like getting all angry about it, it's like they're getting next Monday, they'll be making more noise and they'll be even angrier than this Monday. It's not like, I used to talk about how I thought they'd lose momentum. I think that, as Headlock Hill says, they're doing the Punk thing. I think it's kind of working. I think it's working for now. Yeah.
It is. You have so much buzz going around Cody Rhodes right now that it's absolutely ridiculous. My concern here was I just hope that they don't have Seth Rollins in limbo over a what if. I hope that this is really a done deal because I do think Seth Rollins deserves to have a big match at WrestleMania. He's put on some of the best work of his career, the last few months. So it's like, okay, I really hope they're not doing this just based on a what if or he might sign and there's a real story to go from here, because otherwise, what do you do with Seth Rollins? You have 2 nights to fill and you're going to throw him in a feud that has a different story built because you don't have anything from him. That would seem a little unfair. So whether they sign Cody, if they sign him, then keep doing the teases because it's working. But if you haven't signed him, you got to figure something out for Seth Rollins, the main eventer.
Yeah, totally. And I think this is going to happen here. I like Scott Allen swearing, saying Cody needs to come out with a new click. We're talking about Scott Hall, right?
That would have been a great homage last night if he showed up and said, you know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. I would have died.
Would have done it, right? The only thing is I just don't know that there's enough big name AEW people out there to kind of do AEW.
In Jacksonville?
But look, you compare him with Big Swole, that would be hilarious and fun, and I would cheer that on. But who else personifies AEW that's not with AEW right now? That used to be
it's
with
just
AEW.
Cody Rhodes. It's just Cody Rhodes. That's it. He can't show up. Who is he? You're right. There's nobody else that he could show up with that. Unless he shows up with. Now I'm pushing it, but maybe some of the release stars from WWE come with him. People that haven't joined AEW yet, and they have a different narrative to tell with Cody leading them.
Shane, right? Shane
Bray Wyatt,
right? Bray Wyatt. Sure. I think Cody's going to be a one-man NWO. I think he's gonna do it on his own.
That's what I think too.
Yeah. And Scott Allen swearing, saying, "Are we sure Brian Cage is signed?" Yeah, I think we're.
I read that he recently resigned.
Yeah, he's kind of gone on the record about it too. He was surprised. So
yeah, I heard that Miro resigned too. Getting paid for doing nothing. That's great. I want that.
Well, he's rehabbing. He's working.
I know. Come on.
Let's not diminish the man's rehab.
I know it's still daytime, but I'm still gonna talk a little trash every once in a while.
Well, also on Raw, Randy Orton and Riddle, they hosted their championship celebration to celebrate their title win. They were interrupted by the Street Profits. Montez Ford and Dawkins issued a challenge for Mania. It was accepted. Now it's possible that the former champions Alpha Academy could be added to this, making it a triple threat. Raw featured Riddle versus Ford, but Alpha Academy attacked, took them both out. Were you satisfied with the way they got Street Profits into the tag title picture here on Monday night?
I mean, they actually made sense when they came out and said, hey, we beat you a couple of weeks ago, right? It's a lot better than somebody calling it out. I would have been more happy if they just stole the bag of whatever it was that Randy was about to give to Riddle. I think that would have been a lot more interesting.
I agree.
But I'm glad that the Alpha Academy is still in the picture because I have been really, really happy with what they've been doing as of recently, especially with RK Bro. They just vibe so well together that I don't mind to see that continuing. But yeah, I think it's great to add the Street. You don't have anything for the Street Profits right now. And another side note, never let Randy Orton plan a party for you, ever.
It's really bad party planner. I agree with that.
Definitely not his forte.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I guess I'm just a little sad we're not getting Randy Riddle heads up. Like, right? I kind of wanted to see somebody turn on somebody to get the match.
It's gonna happen. And it's gonna be Riddle turning on Randy. Look at how much trust they're putting. Like Randy last night cut a promo about how he never listened to Vince, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and then Riddle convinced him. He listened to Riddle. When this happens, it's going to be. It's too soon. Let it keep building.
I don't think.
Oh my God, it's gonna be crazy.
I don't think that Vince McMahon ever sparked a blunt with Randy Orton, and I think that's probably why they didn't hit it off quite as well. It was.
You know what?
It was pretty saccharine the way Randy was putting over Riddle. I was very surprised with just like, I my best friend.
You gotta keep writing them down. Write down on your notes every week. Randy Orton notes. Last week he said the F word. Remember, we're friends. Now he's over here listening to Riddle. They're just building it so that it completely crushes you. But it has to be Riddle, the one that turns.
See, and okay, so here's the thing about this match. I don't dislike the match. I like everybody involved, but it's just another match, right? It doesn't feel like a WrestleMania match. Not really, right?
A lot of these matches don't feel like a WrestleMania match this year. I hate to admit it, but it's the truth. A lot of them just feel like they're just putting people together and throwing them in a match because you don't have anything else from them. Women's tag team title, it's a main example of that. There's a lack of a hype going into this WrestleMania. I'm excited for a couple of matches, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't feel like, oh my God, I can't wait. It's going to be crazy. I don't feel that way.
Well, somebody who's working their butt off right now to try to make their WrestleMania match feel like a big deal is Edge. Edge is working very hard right now.
The one that doesn't have to, Nick. If you told me Edge and AJ Styles and did no build to it, I would still be hyped.
And that's what makes Edge a Hall of Famer, right?
Exactly.
Like he doesn't just take something and just coast with it, right? Comes out last night on Raw. He's got this new theme song. He delivered another dark promo. The new song is called The Other Side by Alter Bridge, not the Red Hot Chili Peppers poppin' classic. I thought the song was, how often in wrestling do people change their theme song and people are like, oh, okay. All right, I like that.
No bad.
Edge successfully did that last night. I had no issues with the new song.
I liked it, but I was just like so shocked because we are so used to his theme song. And I was like, he's really committed to this heel turn. Later on in the night, I went on, searched the song list, and read the lyrics. And they are so fitting for a heel turn that I'm like, oh my God, this song is freaking perfect. It's so perfect. So props to Edge. He's such a pro. But you gotta give AJ Styles a little something here going into WrestleMania, right? This feud has been all Edge. He murdered AJ Styles and that's it. He just responded on Twitter. Like, you have to let AJ Styles get a good segment. I think there's 2 Raws before Mania right now?
Yeah.
Edge, otherwise, I believe that Edge is just gonna murder him and end of story.
Yeah, AJ's gonna have to turn it up. And I like that. AJ Styles is always good when he's pressed by top people, right? Like Undertaker definitely brought out the best in AJ. The stuff with John Cena was awesome. So, like, yeah, I think, and what I like about this too is Edge he plays with music, which I think is
Mhm.
cool. Because I saw some people that are like, well, maybe he'll go back to his old theme song after the series with AJ's done. Maybe it's just this music for just this feud, right? While it's turned on. Other times he did the Brood, right, kind of music
Right.
right at the entrance. I dig that. I think it's cool.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
And I think that Edge has reached a point in his return where he's just creatively free and doing what he wants. And I think that was proven in his match where he teamed up with Beth Phoenix. That's just something they wanted to do. I feel like they're just letting Edge do what he wants to do, and it's working. He's so damn good at his job. Props to him.
Yeah, well, somebody else who's very good at their job is heading to NXT tonight. Somebody you're going to be talking about later. The Miz is headed to NXT 2.0. WWE's announced that tonight's episode is going to feature a special Miz TV where he's going to interview new NXT champion Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. I love these three main roster guys coming down to just rub it in the face of all these people making $50,000 a year flat with their taxes being taken out after the fact. I love it. It's going to be great. I'm very excited about this.
I've been giving WWE their flowers on the people that they have come down to NXT and how they've been using it. We'll see how this segment goes, but does the Miz really do wrong? Not really. So I'm excited for this. I think this is gonna be a lot of fun, and it makes NXT 2.0 a lot more watchable. I think NXT 2.0 has been actually a fun show the last few weeks, and people are just now giving it the chance. I saw your tweet about the Chase U segment. That was freaking hilarious.
I love Andre Chase cursing at people, throwing stuff. Sign me up. I mean, I'm about it. I don't know if you get away with it on the main roster, but Andre Chase is definitely growing on me. But what I wonder, because so you gotta have to have somebody that can go back and forth with Miz on the mic, because you would think Miz coming down.
Don't let it be Braun Breaker, please.
Well, hey, if you like a Steiner promo, you love Braun Breaker. But is Andre Chase that guy? You could do a come to the top of the entrance ramp, do something back and forth with Miz, because I see Miz, Roode, and Ziggler there. I don't see Miz just coming in to do Miz TV. I feel like he's coming in.
No, something's gonna happen here. So it might be Braun Breaker, maybe Ciampa. He's been heavily involved in this storyline. I mean, I would rather be somebody that's slightly more entertaining. Like you said, I'm a big Tony D'Angelo fan. Tuesday nights, he's the dude, but he's got something else going on tonight. Now we don't have Butch. Butch is not part of NXT. So I'm going to guess we're going to stick with Braun Breaker and Ciampa here for the back and forward.
Legitimately had to refresh my mind for a second. I was like, Butch? Who the? Oh, Butch.
Butch. That guy, we don't say his own name no more.
How could I forget Butch? All right, lastly here in the news block before we dive into the mailbag, a couple Hall of Fame updates. While we're talking about the Steiners, PW Insider saying WWE officials are, of course, considering the Steiners for Hall of Fame. There's been talk about an induction the past week, and furthermore, it was noted that a number of Steiner family members scheduled to be in Dallas. Braun Breaker, Rick's son, is rumored to challenge Ziggler for the title, NXT Stand and Deliver. I mean, do we get Scott and Rick in the ring celebrating Braun at Stand and Deliver? Is that the image you're expecting now?
I mean, I guess. I don't see Dolph Ziggler having a long title reign in NXT. So I just feel like, in my own opinion, I thought that Braun Breaker would be main roster bound as soon as he was on Raw that Monday. I just thought he looked like he belongs there. And I did read that he was on a couple of house shows throughout the weekend.
Right.
So I don't know that he'll recapture the title if the main roster is where he's headed.
Yeah, no, good. That's where I'm at too. Is like, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion Braun takes this title back. I think he looks and feels too good right now on that main roster. And does that mean Dolph hangs on to the title here? I mean, maybe, because think about it. If putting Dolph with the title, having the Miz down there gets, let's call them casual fans, casual WWE fan, people that just watch WWE. They have their Monday night rhythm, their Friday night rhythm. They're not quite into the Tuesday night thing yet. Does putting a main roster guy with the title on NXT does that lure some people over? Is that a successful experiment if you take somebody like Dolph who really wasn't doing anything, but make him the champion of this brand you're trying to get over? What if we see an increase in viewership just by having Dolph as the champion, you know?
Possibly. I'm 50-50 on this, and a lot of people are talking about that in the chat. It's just the fact that this NXT Stand and Deliver show, in my opinion, no offense, is just set up to fail at noon in Dallas, where people need to be at WrestleMania. People want to tailgate. You went to Hall of Fame. You went to SmackDown the night before. I just feel like the first show where they're finally getting out of the CWC, and that's what you do. I almost wish the show was in Orlando because it would at least be. Listen. I want them to do better viewership wise, but it's just like, how much are they really putting into it when you set up NXT like this? Like, you could have done it on Thursday night in Dallas. People are getting in on Thursday. You know, it just seems weird the way that they're treating NXT. It's like they're trying, but not really.
Yeah, and Wayne here saying NXT deserves better than the afternoon show. Completely agreeing with you. Yes, he says. Counter argument. I don't really hate it being in the afternoon. Especially if you're going to do 2 nights of WrestleMania. I mean, are you going to put it on the Friday? You can't do Friday because you got SmackDown. You can't do Monday.
Right.
It's Raw. Would you do it on Thursday or like when people are not really there? And also, like, you know, one of my favorite things about going to WrestleMania, and I had not been to a WrestleMania until like 6 Manias ago, and now I go every year to go to my job. And one of the things that I really have learned to love about WrestleMania weekend is just like this culture of crazy hardcore fans
that just want to go. Like, what's the next show?
Now, like, if you've ever been to the Collective, which GCW does, have you been to the Collective, Issa?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I love the Collective. New Orleans was my favorite one. I think that may have been the last one pre-pandemic. I don't know. What a mess. A beautiful mess. Like, it's just so warm and inviting. Like, I never want to leave that pro wrestling space. I know there are fans that love that environment. Is NXT that? No. And that's why I want, but it's like they're going to try to be more part of the weekend. I think they're going to try to like find a way to try to engage those fans that they know will do a noon show if it's a big card, you know?
Right, but my counter argument to your counter argument is that you just mentioned New Orleans. This would have worked there. Dallas is a mess of a city. It's going to take you an hour with no traffic to get from downtown to AT&T Stadium. You know this. So
it's true. It's true.
It's like if it was one of those cities where everything is mushed together and you can walk to these places, it would have been perfect. Not in Dallas.
And I'm kind of scared to walk around Dallas at night. I'll be honest. Like,
listen, if a president got shot there, anything goes. That's how I see Dallas. Like, don't mess with them.
True story. Last time that WWE was in Dallas, and this story will officially take us long, and I don't care. Last time I was in Dallas, and I worked for one of our competitors. I was running at that time. I was not quite running the site there, but I was sent down to cover Mania, and me and my buddy Taylor was my videographer, and he's the wheel man because I haven't had a driver's license in like 12 years. Spoiler. And yeah, I know. And so I live in Chicago. Don't need one. And so anyway, we're at night. We're driving back, and like we on the highway see what we are convinced is a body bag, a full body bag just in the highway. And we have to like swerve, and we're like, oh my God. And as we're still looking at the road, we see what we think is another full body bag and have to swerve to get out of the way. So what I'm getting at is Dallas is the only place I've ever gone to cover wrestling where I think there was a truck that had opened and was tossing bodies out.
Body bags out? Was this for 32? For WrestleMania 32?
It was. That was last time
I was there. I can confirm I didn't see any body bags. You know, just throwing that out there.
What a terrifying city, Dallas.
That is scary. And we go to a lot of crazy cities, but Dallas.
Is it scarier than Daytona Beach? A little bit, but not much.
It's just funny because this whole afternoon show, I was talking to my nephew about it, and he was like, because I was like, this is crazy. You can't cover all of this. And he's like, okay, but you're thinking of it as somebody that's going there for work, which I get, right? That's what we do. But I started looking at the logistics. I'm like, no, AT&T Stadium is nowhere near American Airlines Center. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I stayed in downtown last time. Okay, Roman. I stayed in downtown last time, and it took me forever to get to AT&T Stadium, and I left early. So that's just my point.
Yeah. All right. And hey, I guess according to PW Insider, Batista's not going in the Hall of Fame this year either, but nobody was expecting
He's
that.
never going to get inducted. Poor guy. Poor guy.
Next year at LA. That's what they're saying. All right. Thank you, Issa, for joining me at the top of the show to talk all the news today. Thank you, everybody, for chiming in. We're real quickly going to dive into the mailbag here at Wink Daily. That's the account to follow if you want to vote in the daily poll. Today's poll question stems from the Fightful report that says Elias could be returning to WWE TV with a brand new name and gimmick. New vignettes have been filmed for Elias. Tentative plans are for him to remain on Raw. It was noted that a name change has been pitched. I didn't put up a poll today. I just asked everybody if they wanted to write in a new name and gimmick for Elias. We only had one write-in from 60 Rings 9880. He said, Elias, a jerk musician. So no name change. They just want him to stay the same, I guess. Any thoughts on a potential revamp of Elias?
The only thoughts that I have here is that this revamp would have worked during the pandemic era. I think Elias is your most over gimmick now that you're back to crowds. I don't think Elias worked when we had nobody watching, but right now, put him back out there with the guitar, he's good to go again. Like, people love him. Walk with Elias was over. Why change something that isn't broken? If we were still in front of no fans, I could totally see that happening where you need to change the direction with him. But there was nothing wrong with him.
Okay. All right. Counterpoint. What if he was like a cotton candy salesman, right? Like some kind of evil cotton candy salesman, right? Always spinning cotton candy. You could call him Sugar Too Sweet, something like that, right? Maybe that, and it's like, oh, your beard is cotton candy now. We're gonna dye your beard pink, and you're gonna be Sugar Too Sweet, always making your candies and luring the children in, right? Just saying.
Unfortunately, I can actually see that happen.
Yeah, I shouldn't have put that evil out in the world.
I know.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow. We are going to have a big mystery AEW interview going down tomorrow. I'll tell you off the air, Issa, who it is. If you like the Wrestling Inc. Daily, go to whatever podcast platform you frequent most. Remember to subscribe and remember to leave us a nice comment or rating. That has been very helpful in helping us find new listeners and viewers as of late. Support WrestlingInc.com. We have our Twitter account back. Yeah.
We won against the machine. Let's go.
Yeah, we hired Yoshimi, and she went in there and she battled those pink robots. They ain't going to defeat me. And, of course, come back here tonight after NXT. Issa and the rest talking all things NXT. Issa, anything you want to put over here before we wrap up the show today?
No, I will be here tonight. NYC Demon Diva on YouTube. Subscribe to my channel.
Awesome. And I am at Nick_Hausman. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Rest in peace, Scott Hall. You will be missed. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.